Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope all is going well, and I hope you all had a great week. Today, we're reading 3 more scary Nightshift stories as you all voted for. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. Back in the late 70s, after getting my MD, I started my residency at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. When I first started, they gave me the graveyard shift. I helped out in the ER. Most nights were uneventful, just migraines, bad colds, crayons lost in noses, things like that. Every once in a while, about once a week, someone would come running in from a nearby fire or a car crash, looking for help. That was the most exciting things got for the first few weeks. It was about a month after I started in early June. I was on my way to the front desk to get some papers to discharge a patient. There was a woman watching me the moment I came through the door. Her eyes were locked onto mine. She looked like she had probably just come from a car crash. Her hair was wild and wet with blood. It streamed down from her head and stained her white dress. It made prints on her bare feet coming in from the door. She didn't look concerned with it at all, though. In fact, her face was completely blank, as if she was a mannequin. Nobody else in the room was even looking at her. I wouldn't have been looking either, if it weren't for those eyes. They had that look of someone who had just heard my worst secret. Her mouth opened a crack before releasing the faintest of whispers. "Help him." She collapsed onto the ground. I rushed back to get a nurse to help, and while I waited for him to bring the gurney, I knelt down beside her to take her pulse. I checked her wrist, her neck, her chest. There was nothing, only cold, pale skin. We lifted her up and wheeled her back to a room where we could get her stabilized. While the nurse patched up the wound on her forehead, I took her vitals. They were normal. She wasn't breathing, though. I couldn't hear anything with the stethoscope, but all of our equipment showed her to be completely fine. The whole time we were cleaning her up, we were both quiet. We didn't say anything out loud, but we averted our eyes from her as much as possible. Her eyes were open. I tried not to look, but I knew they were following me. Once we had patched up her leg, I asked him to stay with her while I went to go fill out some forms. He nodded and stood a good 2 feet away from the bed. I suddenly began to feel dizzy as I walked through the hall. As I was trying to write, my hands were shaking. My whole body felt weaker. My body was still definitely in the hospital, but I didn't feel entirely present. I went back to the woman's room as quickly as my shaking legs could take me. There was nothing there. Her bed was completely empty, and the nurse was gone. I saw him with another patient. He said it was the only one he had attended to all night. To this day, there's no record of that woman ever being admitted to Cedars-Sinai Hospital. I work the night shift at my local airport. However, after the pandemic is over, I will be quitting right on the spot. I'm not sure if this will get me into some trouble, but I don't care. The force field of holding this thought in my head is falling apart. I found something disturbing at that airport. I won't give out my exact location, so let's just say I worked at a large international airport in the US. I didn't like the job, but my coworkers made up for it. I will hide their names for privacy reasons. We'll call them Jane and Parker. This all began on a busy Friday night. I arrived at the airport after enjoying a delicious chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. I worked at one of the gates towards the back at the main terminal of the airport. The one perk about working over there is that it's quiet most of the time. I'm not a fan of loud noises. Although, that's a bit ridiculous to say, as commercial airplanes are intensely loud. I soon arrived at my gate and began working making sure the attendance for the next boarding time was in the green. Eventually came the time to board all the passengers. I started to scan each passenger's ticket. After the last passenger entered the gate tunnel that leads to the plane, I did a quick double check, making sure I scanned each passenger's ticket. I examined the monitor of the computer when I noticed I hadn't scanned this one guy. I headed down the gate tunnel and informed the flight crew that we are missing a passenger. One of the flight crew made the announcement about the missing passenger. Grunts and annoyed moans filled the plane. I went back up to the gate to call them over the loudspeaker. 2 minutes after the first call, he didn't come. So, I did a second one. Once again, he didn't come to the gate. At this point, I was going to start doing final calls over the loudspeaker, as I was, and I assumed all the passengers and flight crew were also getting impatient. All of a sudden, one of my coworkers, we'll call him Trey, told me that I was instructed to search the back halls of the terminal, as it was believed that the missing passenger was located in that area of the airport. This completely caught me off guard, as I've never been instructed to go search for a passenger before. However, I had to comply, as apparently the security guard who worked in that section called in sick for work. Trey would take over my position at the gate while I went searching for the missing passenger. I began making my way to the back halls of the terminal. When I got there, I scanned the halls looking for him. I called out to him many times, but no response. As I made my way through the halls, I heard something coming from one of the storage rooms. It sounded like someone was messing with some of the storage containers. At first, I thought another employee was there. However, a sinking feeling entered my body. Something didn't feel right. I began moving slowly to the storage room where the sounds were coming from. The sounds became more aggressive as I got closer to the door. I began to grab the knob, turned it slowly, and opened it. I was first greeted in a dark room with some of the shelves in view. I didn't have a flashlight, so I scanned the walls for some sort of light switch. All of a sudden, the lights turned on by themselves. I assumed the lights were on some sort of motion sensor, but how were the lights off when I heard noises coming from the room? While questioning about this thought, I noticed something moving in the corner. Part of my view was obstructed by the shelves, so I couldn't tell what it was. I started making my way to where I saw the moving object, or maybe it was a person. As I got closer, I could hear what sounded like someone was eating something. I called out, "Is someone there?" No response. I rounded one of the back shelves and arrived at the corner where I saw it. What I saw will forever be planted in my memory until I leave this world. No one should ever witness what I saw. There was some sort of four-legged creature with rotten gray skin and lanky arms and legs. Its bones were showing, which made the creature more dreadful to see. It was feasting on a human, who I soon recognized as the missing passenger. I stood there frozen in fear, not wanting to make a single noise to startle it, but I had to escape. As I know that I will face my fate to whatever this thing is, I began quietly and slowly backing away from it. I made it about halfway from the door when I heard footsteps coming from behind me. I stood stiff as a board, and then a horrid scream echoed through the storage room. The scream was brutal, more brutal than fingernails on a chalkboard. I began sprinting for the door with all I could, with footsteps of the creature closing in on me. I bursted through the door and slammed it shut behind me. The creature began banging on the door, combined with a horrifying wail coming from the creature. I ran away from it and made a mad dash for my boss's office. When I got there, I told him what happened. Of course, he didn't believe me, but told me he'll send a security team to go check it out, as he was a little bit concerned. The security team investigated the room, which turned up nothing, outside of a pool of blood on the floor where I saw that thing. I remembered that there was a vent in the storage room, which the security team believed that's how the creature entered and escaped. The body was never found though, and I got the hell out of that airport. It's been a few months since the incident, and I haven't recovered since. I think what I saw was a Wendigo. However, the problem with that theory is that they are usually spotted in cold climates or the forest, and the airport was nowhere near one. But whatever it was, I never want to see it again. I've been searching out possible jobs I could do after the pandemic is over, as I'm quitting once I get back to work. After I tell my boss I'm quitting, I will never return to that airport again. The dreaded night shift. I work from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. as a custodian for a large bank headquarters. One I'd rather not say, but it's located in Michigan, in a pretty open area. There are no other buildings nearby, and it's connected to a curved road leading to the highway. Every shift, I drive up to the parking lot, hit my weed pen a couple of times, and go in. For break, around 8 p.m., I just go back to my car and it's straight to the pen, and I open my cooler to eat lunch. Weed just makes the job easier. But now, no amount of weed could help me escape this. Recently, there have been reports of employees of the bank going missing. The front desk lady, Jasmine, was the one who told me. I'm the only custodian there for 6 hours until Jeremy comes in for his graveyard shift, and she speaks with me frequently. I feel bad for Jeremy, even though I clean most of the building, and he basically sits around in the receiving room on the computer for hours at a time. It's still desolate in there, and I'd be going nuts if I were him. Regardless of that, during the course of the times throughout the rumors of people going missing, Jeremy has told me he wants to quit now. When I asked why, he just went pale and said he didn't feel comfortable here anymore. Needless to say, he quit just 2 days ago, and now my hours are from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Great, I thought. Anyways, the following day, I woke up with a sinking feeling in my chest, as I am the only janitor there now. My boss only contacts me through my phone. I haven't seen her in months though, but she still writes my paychecks, so that's good, right? During the shift, I noticed several of the bank employees were absolutely shaken. One woman kept looking over her shoulder and bumped into a plant, causing it to fall over, and I had to clean it up. "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Matt. Here, let me help you." I politely interrupted her. No, it's okay. This is my job." I tried to be as cheerful as I could. "Hey, is there something wrong? I mean, I know the situation, but you seem like there's something very wrong," I asked. Her eyes widened, and I could see sweat on her forehead. She leaned in closer to me, then whispered with intensity, "You need to get out of here while you can. This place is just wrong. That's what's wrong." I nodded with a confused look, and she just sighed and walked away. Now, I don't know about you, but that bothered me. What did she mean by that? The next day is how I found out what she meant. It was around 1 a.m. when I began to hear a noise coming from the stairs leading to the lower levels. Why a bank has 2 lower levels is what always crossed my mind. I remember specifically being told that the elevator doesn't go all the way down to the 2nd level, but I don't need to bother with that area. I found out what was down there. Once I noticed everyone leaving at 6 p.m., I decided to go down. The sounds appeared to be human voices, and sometimes I'd hear screams. I got to the 1st basement level, and everything seemed fine. It was just a dark, open area with a bunch of tables and chairs. Probably all the shit they don't use anymore, but have nowhere to put them. It was when I got to the 2nd basement level where I decided that I needed a new job, or to call the authorities. The door at the bottom of the staircase was chained with a padlock. I shouted, Is anyone there?" No response. "Hello? I can hear you in there." I tried again. For a moment, there was no noise. Then, I waited longer, and nothing happened. As soon as I turned around to head back up, there was a voice on the other side of the door. Is anyone there?" I turned around. The voice seemed disgruntled, and sounded like they needed help. It was a low woman's voice. She had to have been at least 60. "Hold on, I'm gonna open the door," I shouted, and fumbled through my keys to see if I could find the according key that fit the lock. I kept trying to plunge random keys into the padlock, but no avail. "Hold on, I'm gonna open the door," the voice commanded. I backed away in horror. The voice was not from a woman anymore. It was mine, as if the person was trying to copy me, but it was eerily similar to my voice. I kept staring at this door quickly, realizing that there was a reason the door was chained. "Let me out!" I then heard a wet splash hit the floor from the other side. I looked down at the door, and blood was pooling from underneath. Long, bony fingers were slowly coming out from under the door. I jumped and dropped my keys, ran up those stairs, and called to my supervisor frantically, telling her that there's something wrong here, and clocked out. I called the police in my car and informed them of the blood. They took my info and said they would send people over. Eventually, 2 squad cars pulled up, and I told them what happened. They asked if I could lead them to the area, and I did. The blood was gone, as well as the keys. My heart sank to my stomach, and the cops told me I was lucky. I'm just a night shifter, and they figured I got spooked from being there at night for so long, and left. I didn't care. I'm not going back in there. I called my supervisor and quit right there on the spot. They could send someone else to deal with that shit. I sped home and didn't even care about the consequences, but I wish I took more care in grabbing those keys or something, because right now, there's a person outside my door. They keep repeating the words in my voice. Is someone there? Hold on, I'm gonna open the door. I had the television on, and the girl that bumped into the plant, Melissa, was now missing. I'm thinking about calling the police again, but what are they going to do? Is this thing going to be standing there when they come? Will they even come at all? I haven't bothered to look through the people yet, but whatever this thing is, it said and did something that made my chest sink. First, it spoke. Hey Matt, I'm alright, just let me in. It wasn't the old woman's voice anymore, or mine. It was Melissa. What is this thing? I then heard the distinct sound of keys jingling. Then, and on a low, warbling voice, it said, I'm out. Please, open the door. Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.